Welcome to the Super Awesome You. Coming to you on the Super Awesome Mix Podcast Network, I'm your host, Samra Obiselby, and each week we'll be exploring the topic of motivation and, of course, add one song to the motivational mixtape week after week. You'll find links in the show notes for the playlist, and you can also follow us at Super Awesome Mix for more of our shows and content. This week we'll be covering the topic of what to do when you already mess up or you miss a beat in your path towards hitting a goal. More specifically, I'm going to use the example of losing weight. This was something that I did last year. I actually lost over 20 pounds over the course of a year, which I can't even believe it. It's really amazing to kind of reflect back and think about the journey. And now it feels like it happened all of a sudden, but I can definitely tell you with 100% confidence that was not the case. And there were so many times and stretches where my weight either did not budge even a tenth of a pound. And in some awful cases, I actually reversed my weight loss and would add on pounds and basically just backtrack. And when that would happen, I just felt absolutely crushed. You know, I started at a weight that definitely was overweight and just couldn't put up with it anymore. It was, you know, the case of pandemic weight plus a lot of stressors and a lot of things going on. And I just set out on a journey and basically wanted to lose about, you know, at least 20 pounds. That's what I needed to get back into like a more normal range for me. And I would lose, you know, I'd lose like 5 pounds and I'd feel really good. And then I'd gain back 2 or 3. And that killed me. Because to walk back the steps of how long it took to lose those 5 just made me want to quit the whole thing. And I think what's happening there is basically our brains are constantly scanning for information to kind of prove that they're right. So what I mean by that is that information is really valuable. And from an evolutionary point of view, information was also really scarce. We didn't come across it very often. Of course, now we have the opposite problem. And you might argue we're in the information apocalypse because we have so much information all the time. And our brains are still programmed to believe that all of it is really important and that all of it can, you know, potentially be life-saving and is true. We also live in a society where we tend to kind of get beaten up every single day. People tell us we're not good enough. We tell ourselves we're not good enough. We scroll on social media and it depresses us because everyone else seems to have it going on and we don't. We are constantly being fed information that we ourselves might not be good enough. And so then whenever you set out on a goal to lose weight and you slide a little bit and you start to gain weight again, I believe what's happening is your brain picks up on that as like proof that that information that it gathered is right. The information that I, Sammer, am not good enough to lose weight was right all along, and you should just stop trying because, look, I've proved it. You read and heard that losing weight is really hard. You yourself have been down on yourself like this whole time, and there you go. There's the data right in front of you. You gained weight. You're awful. Just quit. It sounds funny, but I'm sure I had that conversation with myself at least 100 times last year. 100 times of basically waking up, stepping on that scale and feeling like a total and utter failure, which is ridiculous because adding a couple of pounds back onto the scale did not make me a failure. It made me human. Obviously there was a lot of context on why and when I gained weight and I needed to give myself that space. This is not about apologizing for backtracking necessarily or excusing it. Sometimes, you know, people think that it's like, oh, you're excusing bad behavior or whatever. And if you do that, then it's another sliding scale and you'll just end up right back where you were or worse. This is really just about recognizing that going back a few steps is often part of the journey of moving forward. And we don't need our brains to affirm that we are failures. We just need ourselves to affirm that we are on a journey, and you just check in with yourself again. You really have to find a way to reset. In the show Ted Lasso, there's an episode where he's talking to a player and he just kind of tells the player, you need to be a goldfish. Because I don't actually know if this is scientifically true, but they say goldfish have a memory of like 7 seconds. The whole point of that is like you live in the present. you don't remember what happened 7 seconds ago. And I mean, that actually sounds terrifying. That would be a whole other medical issue. But the point is that you reset and you ask yourself again, why does this matter? Does this goal still matter to me? Do I still want to lose the 20 pounds? I'm willing to bet the answer is yes. And with that, you are like, cool, what do I do today then? And you just start over again. And I think that lesson got drilled into me last year. Every single time I would slip up, every single time I would stagnate, I just check in again and be like, do I still want this? And I really would ask myself that question. And I'd say, yes, I still want this. I still want to lose the weight. I still want to be where, I will feel good in my body and feel healthy. And then the follow-up is like, okay, then you know what you need to do. You've done it before. You can do it again. And that was a really powerful switch in terms of self-talk, because it went from that really awful negative self-talk of like, I'm a failure, I'm awful, I should quit, I'm going to walk away from this, it's not worth it, to this is part of the journey. Part of the journey is that you're going to mess up, or not. You might not even mess up. It just might be what's happening in your life. There were times when I couldn't really easily control what I had access to, so I wasn't eating as healthy of food. And so I could only eat what was around me, and I gained weight as a result. But then whenever I could control it again, I made those choices, and I controlled what I ate, and I lost the weight again, and just kept going and kept going. So if you actually look at my weight chart, it's honestly like just a bunch of waves, but they're a bunch of waves where every single time the peak got a little bit lower than the previous peak. So on the whole, it was a downslide, but it wasn't just like a straight line down. And I think that is true for probably every goal imaginable. When I think about my running goal right now, there are times, I go out there every single day and I want to get like a personal record. And I have to tell myself, it's unrealistic to expect that every single run from here until the day I stop running is going to beat a previous record of mine. That's just not how science works. That's not how my body works. That's not how biology works. I need to accept that not every run is going to be a PR. I'm going to get them every now and then. But on the whole point is that I just keep showing up and keep doing what I know will get me to a PR eventually. And with each run, I get a little bit better. So don't let your brain immediately glom on to, a piece of data that affirms negative self-talk. I think there's two things that you can do. Number one, really do your best to replace negative self-talk and tell yourself that this is all part of the journey and that you believe in you, and you've got, I'm sure, a support group of people that believe in you too. And then two, just reframe it from, this is a failure to this is part of the journey, and reset and try again. This week's song to commemorate this is Present Tense by Pearl Jam. This is going to be featured on an upcoming episode of the Super Awesome Mix podcast. We do a yearly motivational mix. And it's worth bringing up in this show as well, because it is so good to be reminded to be in the present. That song in particular truly just talks about how you need to let go of past regrets, and that you are likely the one that's not not letting go. And that is such a powerful thing to realize, to just let go, be in the moment, because the future will take care of itself as long as you take care of the choices you're making right now. We only ever have control over what we're going to do in this moment. And so that's the best way to go forward. And that's the best way to create the future that you want for yourself. Decide where you want to go, and then what steps can you make to get you a little bit closer every single day. Until next time, stay super awesome, because you already are.